community that the individual lives in. So when we love as men and women, as sisters and brothers, this love also is rooted in community and is necessary for community functioning. Love, romantic love, or whatever love, is not a selfish undertaking. And it should not be perceived as something just between you and your partner. It moves beyond that. It's going to influence more people than just you and your partner. It's going to influence the community itself. And consequently, then, the community has a right to concern itself with the so-called nature of love. Love, along with the related concepts such as oneness, and we see people wanting to get a sense of oneness when they're in love, unity, uniting, being together, identity, identifying, becoming one with the person you love. It becomes interesting. We talk about love in terms of blood relations. And yet the person you marry is really not your blood relation in actuality. But yet somehow that love, if it's right, becomes as strong or sometimes even stronger than blood relations, you see. So because love tends, as we see it in this culture, to unite and bring about identity between two or more people that goes beyond their biological relatedness, that often is stronger than their biological relatedness. Love, along with commitment, caring and sharing, belonging, relatedness, commonality, having things in common, is that which creates a community, is that which supports a community and maintains a community. So then the thing that keeps a community together is, of course, the nature of love that inheres in its families and between its families. And ultimately, the nature of love that is put out toward the community itself and toward one's people. And all of this influences the nature of romantic love. When you want to destroy a community, when you want to destroy a people, as we will talk a bit about later on, you destroy the nature of their romantic love. Destroy their ability to love one another in a healthy sort of way. And we will see. When you see and you think about the problems we have as people and as individuals in loving each other romantically, you must recognize in good part that problem and those problems have been set up by a political social system. Because we shall see that love, the love that we have for one another, is the greatest threat to the people who rule over us. And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why, even if you're concerned with your individual love for your boyfriend or your husband, you cannot separate that love from what is going on in the world, politically and socially. Because the nature of that love is defined by political, social circumstances. And if you can't understand why you have problems in your love relations, perhaps a good part of it is because you have not taken time to understand the nature of the political, social situation in which you live. Because you have been made to think that your love is merely the concern of you and your partner and not rooted in what is going on in the world. Love is a part of the world you live in. The community ultimately defines love anyway. You see, many of us are raised in this culture, and we've been raised to think love is something just natural and just flows out of living. I'm speaking now particularly of romantic love. But actually, you have to learn how to love. Love is taught to you. You teenagers, you're being taught what love is. How are you taught that? You're taught it by listening to these records all the time. and you hear your idols singing about love. You make me feel so good. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't live without you. And then what do people say? I must be in love. You see? And, I can't go on. Here's my heart. Don't break it. You see? My life has no meaning. And all of these kinds of things. And you read what? Poetry. And, of course, many of you in this age now where you're writing from the city of love and from the street of this and so forth. I've forgotten my old rhymes when I was a kid. We all wrote those things. You look at TV and you see Dallas and you see Knots Landing and you see show after show after show. And you think you're just looking at entertainment, but actually they're teaching you what love is. Or what love is about. How you're supposed to feel when you're in love, you see. If you feel this way, if you can't eat and you can't get him off your mind, if you dream about him all the time, if shivers run up your spine when you see him and all that means you're in love. In a sense, if there was no one around to tell you that, you wouldn't feel it. You wouldn't feel love. Now, romantic love, believe it or not, is only, in this culture, about 200 or 300 years old. Prior to, say, the 1700s, people didn't marry for love. In fact, they saw love, what we call love, as a terrible basis for marriage. They fought against it. They married in terms of maintaining family lines, in terms of maintaining property, in terms of maintaining political and other kinds of associations, class associations. Your husband might have been picked out for you at birth. You might not have even seen your husband until your wedding day. You would not have had anything to say about who your husband or your wife was. That would have been the result of negotiation between your parents, between your whole clan and your family. Because these families recognized that when marriage takes place between a man and a woman, the families are married as well. That you don't marry just an individual, you marry into a family, you see. And consequently, it was the family that came first in determining marriage and marital relations. Now, this sounds very harsh to us today because we've been brought up with this other concept of marriage, that is, you marry who you love. But we can trace the history of marriage based on romantic love. And it, to a great extent, was built on novels and poems, came out of the courts of Europe to a very great extent, which is the reason why we still use kind of the word courting. Many of those people had nothing to do all day but develop rules about how you used to court and how you deal with the man and a woman and so forth. And eventually that worked its way down into society. Poets start writing poems about love and emotion, and eventually the average person started picking it up. As the society changed toward industrialization and so forth, and as families began to break up, where aunts and uncles and 3 or 4 generations no longer lived in the same household, then people started making their own individual choices about who they would marry and so forth. And often those choices started being made in terms of emotions and feelings. We have found out in this culture, though, that merely marrying someone because you love them does not guarantee the unity of the marriage hardly any more than the other forms of marrying people as well. But the point then I'm trying to make here then is this, that even the community you live in defines what love is and teaches you to love in one way or the other. So even in that sense, love is community, and it is a part of community. To a good extent, some of the problems that we have in this country and in our communities is a result of the wrong definition of what love is, where the community has come to accept a concept of love that works against its interest. When people are getting married because they are in love, and yet half of those marriages are more fall apart, and the other half of those are living in conflict and hostility, then it must make you think that there is something wrong in the way we define love in this system and in our community. It means then there is a time perhaps for the community to redefine what love is and what love is about. It is in your interest as young people that the community teaches you a new form of romantic love and loving one another. Why? Because it will enhance your ability to stay with the man you love and to stay with the woman you love, to keep your children with you in your family, to develop healthy people and to develop a healthy community. So your interest, even as young people, should be in how your community defines what love is. Not only should you listen to these records or just dance to these records, you should take out some time and think about what kind of love is this record projecting. Is this a kind of love that is ultimately going to be productive for me and my boyfriend, for me and my husband, for me and my children? And you may find that some of these records you're listening to are really not in